Yay! I am super excited for this topic. Today we are going to be going into 10 sales topics you possibly haven't thought of. We're going to be diving into different tips, different ideas to really help you with sales. I think the reason I love talking about sales so much is because without sales, you don't have a business, right? I will see business owners all the time. They're doing really well posting at social media. They're putting a lot of content. They may even have everything planned out really far in advance, but if they're not actually doing and making sales every single day, then it's just a hobby and a passion. It's not a business. And so that's why I get so passionate about sales, because I really believe that sales is easy, just like money is easy. I believe that it doesn't have to take a lot of work. I believe that when we can align with our sales sole purpose, money just flies in all of the time. Just yesterday, I had maybe $12,000 just flow into my life through my business without even working yesterday, because I have been sick, as you can hear, and I've been dealing with some disc issues. So physical sabotage. Once again, physical sabotage. I know something great is coming, but it's definitely been a push through week for me, but I haven't had to work that much to be able to still create an impact and create an income in my life. And so we're going to dive into sales, because I've found that that's the thing that, as much as I preach about it, I still feel like it's the thing that people slack the most at doing on a day-to-day basis, when it can be so simple and so easy. So we're going to go into some different tips that you possibly haven't thought about. I really want you to keep in mind, as I always talk about, kind of that buyer seller psychology, really looking and remembering that the sell is determined by the seller's perspective, not by your perspective, not by how much work you feel like you put in, not by how much value you think that your package is worth. When we start making it about us, then we get disappointed when people don't buy. We start getting resentful towards our audience. We want to start shifting everything and changing everything, because we think that there's something wrong with us, when a lot of times it's just you're not selling to your buyer in the way that they want to be sold to. So keep that in mind. We're not going to dive too much into the NLP stuff, but keep that in mind, as we have tons of trainings on that. So the thing I want you to think about is quit selling and start engaging, is how I wrote it down, right? We want it to be a back and forth conversation. How would you talk to a friend? How would you treat a friend when you go to refer somebody to something to somebody? How are you communicating with them, right? My mom just got a brand new puppy that she just put money down. She'll be getting it in May. And she's like, I really need to train this dog, right? I want to make sure it's potty trained. And she was a little worried about going to work and all of these different things. And I was like, oh, I have a dog trainer. He's super amazing, right? I think that he would be a perfect fit. You can either do a board and train, or you can do 10 sessions with him, and he'll train your dog to wherever you want it to be in that period of time, right? Why is it so easy for me to tell that to my mom or tell that to a stranger? But when it comes to my own products or services, we have a hard time just kind of having that back and forth conversation, right? And a lot of times it's due to your sales energy. When you're afraid to be sold to, you're going to have a really hard time selling. And I've found the people that don't sell the most are the ones that have a hard time saying no when someone's selling to them, or they have a hard time really buying people's stuff. They have their own money energy issues. So know that number one, actually on my list, this is actually number 10, but so we'll probably get back to this, but know that your money energy really determines how you're going to sell. And if you aren't willing to buy, you're not going to be willing to sell because you're placing that money energy on people. So we've talked so much about different like timelines and sales language and all of those different things. We're not going to go into that today. We're just going to kind of go into a little bit deeper about a different perspective around sales, right? It might be a sales tip, it might be someone's human behavior around sales, or it might just be something that you knew already, but you needed a little bit of a refresher. So my goal for you is that you you use the sales script that you have available to you, but eventually you get away from the script because you just have the reason of the script in your mind. So in your hub, you have a sales script. The sales script is not for you to just have to follow a script every single time. It's to make sure you're hitting each area and points of the brain that need answered in somebody's mind to be able to buy from you. You have to realize that people are trusting you with their asset. They're trusting you with their money. They're trusting you with like something that they've put as like an identity on themselves, right? Their worth. Like if someone's handing you money, you have to be willing to step into doing all that you can to make sure that like that money is well taken care of, and they are going to get the desired result that they want at the end of the game plan, right? For them, it might be an ROI. It might be maybe sell skincare product and it's going to be like that their skin looks better. It might be whatever the desired result is. You have to do what you can to make sure that they get that result. I have found, especially in the coaching world, you know, people will say, here's your program, just go with it. You have all the information. If you don't get the results, it's on you because you didn't do it, right? That's not how I roll. Why? Because I know human behavior. I can probably guarantee that anybody watching this right now in the last month has probably not even opened their membership site. Why do I know that? Because I know human behavior, right? So I'm not going to blame you if you don't get the results because you didn't open up the website, right? All I have to do is really make sure I set up, and this is my lower end program, right? Like a lot of you either got it as a bonus into something or you pay the $50 a month, right? So also know that you're going to spend your time where you need to spend your time. Like I can't treat this like a personal client where I'm every day telling you guys, go get a training, go get a training, go get a training, but I can set up email sequences to remind you. I can be posting in the group, right? I can be directing you when there is a question, directing you back to the hub, go watch this training, go do this, right? I obviously can't force people to do anything and you can't either, but also you have to understand human behavior, right? And so you have to make sure that in your funnel, it is set up for human behavior. If people aren't doing this at this level, they might need a little bit more accountability, but you're only going to know that as you get to know people and what they need from you. So if say you sell essential oils, I can guarantee you they probably haven't even opened the bottle. How do I know that? Or they opened it maybe the first day and used it, but they should be flying through those oils if you've set up a system that you know that they're actually using the oils. Because the issue isn't that the oils aren't working. The issue is that they don't get results. The issue is they either have an overstock or they're just not actually using it to get the results that they have. And so that's why human behavior, it is so important to understand. So we're going to go into the 10 tips right now, kind of tips on getting them to say yes, right? Getting them to really dive in. But I first wanted to encompass all of that with make sure your program's set up for human behavior, make sure that you are checking in with your sales energy, and make sure that like you are doing all that you can when people are entrusting you with their money that they're handing to you, right? If somebody is paying me, my rule of thumb, and this is my rule of thumb, And it may work for you, it may not, right? For me, because I'm in the coaching world, my rule of thumb is that whatever program somebody signs up for with me, my goal is that they get double that ROI, right? So that tells me how much time I need to put into each program to make sure if they invested this much, can they at least get double back, right? That is my goal. You have to really set your own boundary and ask yourself, anybody that works with me, what is it that I am going to make a promise to myself that I almost like your guarantee, right? But it's not your guarantee because legally we can't guarantee anything. But really ask yourself, if I had a guarantee, what would that be, right? What would that be that I am going to work my butt off that this happens? And you can ask my team, right? Like I stress, like if there is like somebody that like hasn't shown up for a check-in in a while in my group coaching, or a client that's kind of went MIA for a minute, we are like calling and texting and this and that, because like I get so worked up that like, are they getting their value? Are they making their money back? Are they doing this, right? Which is why we have such a return rate too, because people get results. I think the biggest compliment I get day in and day out is, you are the first coach that actually got me results. When in general, I wasn't the one that got them results. I just had my program set up to be able to get people results. And so keep that in mind as we go through these. So number one, I was looking at some studies, and these studies, I don't remember the actual statistics off the top of my head now, but studies show that people persuade themselves to buy through smaller yes commitments first. So if you keep getting no, 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 it's a sign that you're jumping people from this end of your timeline of like a stranger to a customer way too fast. They need to get smaller yeses to be able to get to the bigger yes. No is never no. I will tell you that. No is either I don't see the value, I don't need it, or I am super confused and still don't know what you do. So I was reading about this story, and there was a bunch of people, there was a study that went out, and they went in two groups. One group had to go knock on doors and ask if they could put a large sign in front of their house. I don't remember what the sign was, but they had to put a large sign in front of their house. The other group, they had to go put a small sign in, like, or knock on doors and ask to put a small sign in their yard. They went, they knocked on doors, and well, obviously, what do you think that most people agreed to? Most people agreed to the smaller sign. Most people were like, I don't want a big old sign in my yard, right? And so that's kind of where they left the study there. And then they came back and they re-knocked on the doors of the people with the smaller sign. And when they knocked on the door, they asked, okay, would it be okay if we replace a small sign with a bigger sign? And I once again, I wish I would have wrote down the numbers, but statistics, I'm not an auditory, so statistics don't matter to me, but majority of the people ended up saying yes. And it was because they committed to the smaller sign first. So smaller yeses more often are going to equal the bigger bucks, the bigger yeses, the longer committed clients. I just had a client, sorry guys, I'm super sick, so I'm like, my nose is like wanting to sneeze right now. But the bigger yeses, so I just had a client that she's probably on her 6th time renewing with me, right? And it's because she said yes, 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 and every time she gets a bigger result, a bigger result, a bigger result, right? And so like, I want you to think about like that. Like, how are you getting people to say yes to your newsletter? How are you then getting people to say yes to your free training? How are you getting people to then say yes to a low cost thing and then a middle cost thing and then a bigger cost thing. I think in the world of sales, we try to just say, okay, I'm going to put posts out there and whoever asks me for help, that's who I'll sell to. You're waiting for people way too often, but you don't actually have your social media set up to say yes, right? That's why I don't plan like my social media is super far out. Why? Because psychology wise, like how number one, how am I going to trust my intuition that day? And number two, like how do I know, how am I tracking how many people have engaged, right, that day and have said yes to just commenting, to know what I need to post next, to know what I need to post next, right? So I can still have a plan out there, but at the end of the day, I can't pre-plan any of my content because then I am doing what I think people need versus doing what the people are actually asking for and wanting. So remember, small yeses are going to eventually equal the bigger yeses. Number two, you have to remember the sentimental moments. So as you get to know people, right, you need to remember, like, if when their birthday is, or maybe when their anniversary is, or maybe if they just had a baby, or you have to be involved with the sentimental moments, because if you don't know the people that you're selling to on a personal level, why would they say yes to you? So you don't have to remember all of them, right? But if you see somebody that's following you that had a baby, take the time to go comment and say something. If Facebook shows you it's someone's birthday, like reach out and give them a voice message and wish them a happy birthday. When you start to care about people as your friend, people will buy from you a lot more. And so remember, try to figure out in your business, what are going to be the sentimental moments that you remember, right? What are going to be the sentimental gestures that you do? Is it, maybe the random ones when you see their kids graduate kindergarten or college, but start to think about, do I know a lot of my following? And kind of, have I researched their life, right? At least those like kind of colder and middle leads. We tend to know a lot about our hot leads, but we tend to not really dive into the new people that just opted in to see you. And I think that naturally, if we can start to give more and care more about our audience on a personal level, we're going to start to be able to sell more, right? Now, obviously, as you blow up and you're famous, you're not going to be able, now you have like credibility and you don't have to remember things like that. But until then, that's how you grow a loyal following. That's how you grow a name for yourself. That's how you show people that you actually care. So remember the special moments. Number three, first impressions are everything and it lasts a lifetime. So science has showed that anchoring or a viewpoint or an emotional stimulus that somebody has on you happens in the very first 30 seconds by your physical appearance, by your tone, by your attitude, and by whatever experience they had with you, right? If you walk into a room and you totally ignore, like you see somebody in public and you totally ignore them, or they're going to remember that, right? They're like, oh yeah, I met that Nicole Henry chick once, but she didn't even she was too cool to talk to me, or whatever it is, right? You have to understand that first appearance, or the appearance, means everything to brand new people. They may not think that, but in their brain, it has shown that it does. So making sure that when you go to a speaking event, you're dressing one level up to the actual audience, right? Because matching them is way too risky. They're not going to take you serious and they're not going to see you as credible. But also being clear up here when maybe it's a pajama party you're speaking at, right? Then you don't even relate whatsoever. So one level up is a really good rule of thumb when it comes to maybe you don't know your audience, but you have a vendor booth, or you have like a speaking gig or something like that. But you do not want to match people where they're at. You want to make sure that you're dressing up, because vibrationally, we follow energy that's ahead of us. We follow energy that's more bold than us. We follow energy that's up here, right? So in general, I probably wouldn't get on a live video not ready, right? But today is my 100% because I'm sick, and this is my 100%, right? So you're not going to be perfect, but also I probably wouldn't go do a live video where I have strangers, right? Because they're going to remember this. And not that I look bad or ugly or this or that, but I'm not dressing up for my audience. Why would they learn from me how to make multiple six figures when I dress like a bum and don't get ready, right? And so you have to make sure that you're matching, or that you're up leveling the content that you're putting out there, or the product you want to showcase for people. So that's number 3. Number 4, reverse psychology works really, really, really well. Because what I have found is during the sales process, people are going to test you and they are afraid to buy. People are so afraid to buy, but at the same time, all we do is buy stuff all day long. And so it's funny because people are just so afraid to say no. People are so afraid to be like, that's not a good fit for me, or whatever it is, right? Like I've had people that have like last appointments with me, and it's funny because I actually don't sell at last appointments. It's just not what I do. But it's funny because I will literally have people like cancel their last appointments and then ignore us and never reschedule due to being afraid to like be resold. When they create the story in their head they're going to be sold to, and they will totally just like, they're so afraid of that they won't do it, which is funny because like I said, they literally just missed out on like a $700 value like appointment due to a story they made up that they're not even going to be sold to. And so that's how like much people are so afraid to be put in a sales position. And so my goal is to really change the culture of sales and make it an experience that's enjoyable for the customer, but it's also enjoyable for us, right? That it's a safe place for people to say yes, and it's a safe place for people to say no. So when people like say like you sell to someone, right? People's natural resistance or human behavior is going to be either to repel or like rebel, I should say, or repel or resist, right? Resist against it. So what I would suggest doing is, if you're kind of new to the sales and you're getting to the kind of that end closing point, and you say, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, how interested are you in working with me, right? And maybe they maybe they say, oh, you know, a 6, right? Because they're too afraid to say a 10. They're too afraid to say anything above like above a 6, but they also don't want to go below a 5 because they don't want to hurt your feelings, right? And so reverse psychology works really well in moments like this, because it will show people that you're making a safe place for them, but also that like you're not placing judgments of what their answer has to be. So you could say something like this: oh wow, I was totally reading into like you, and I thought you were maybe at a 3. May I ask like why you're at a 6, like why you're so high? Because now naturally they've went to the positive, right? Like they thought they were like picking this safe number, but now you're like, oh, I thought you were clear down here. Why are you so high? And now they get to feel safe enough to be like, oh, because I liked this and I like this and I like this and I like this. And naturally, people are going to pick a lower number anyways. So if they say they're a 6, they're probably actually an 8, right? And so it's not that you're manipulating their brain, but your reverse psychology or you're using reverse psychology to create a safe place to bring up real answers. That like when I talk about reverse psychology or overcoming objections or anything like that, I always talk about this stuff is like, yes, it could be manipulative, but really we're doing it in knowing that what they're saying isn't really the answer. It's their safe answer. So essentially it's their brain lying to them to protect them, right? And so we're just using it to create to bring more truth, right? They're telling you this, the truth is somewhere up here, and you're just kind of bringing that, like, where is the truth in between all of that, right? So reverse psychology works really well when you have people that are like, yeah, like this just, I don't know, this just, I'm trying to think of other examples you could do, like, if like they were like, oh, it's not the right time, right? And you'd be like, oh, when would be a right time? And they might be like, oh, like, oh no, like get a hold of me in a month, and be like, oh my gosh, I totally thought you were ready, you would be ready in like 6 months. Why so soon? Let's get something set up and prepared so that you are ready to go in 1 month, right? Let's get you signed up, let's get you going. We'll just push it, we'll just start a little bit later. So you can really use the reverse psychology in a lot of different ways. I would just say try to find what fits best, and using that scale of 1 to 10 in whatever way you can utilize that in your business. So number 5, a shower with gifts, right? People who buy, or like people who buy, they typically feel like if you've give, or you've kind of under promised, but you over deliver in your free stuff or your samples or in the way that you just behave, naturally people feel like they owe you, right? I feel like a lot of my higher end clients that end up spending $30,000 with me or more, they are typically ones that are in my messenger, that they're not going to comment in front of people because they have like an ego to put their issues out there, right? But they're going to comment in Messenger and ask me questions because they're testing. They want to make sure that I can give them results. So I do a lot of coaching in my Messenger for usually like a month or two before I actually get that higher end client, right? And if someone's going to invest $30,000, why would I not be showering them with like gifts or value or information beforehand? Because without a doubt, I know I can help them. And without a doubt, I can give them all the free information in the world. But if I know human behavior, once again, it's not information that is the reason it's not what they don't know that isn't making their business grow. It's that they don't have that hand holding every day of somebody literally being like, well, today you should do this. Today, let's overcome this objection. Oh, I see. This is what your audience is going through, right? You need to do more posts like this. They want that guidance, like by hand. They don't know that they need that if I don't give them that guidance also beforehand. So I just did a speaking gig at a real estate brokerage, and I was talking about, it really bothers me in the real estate world where, like, after you buy from people, like, you get this big basket of gifts after you buy a house. And everybody gets it, right? Everyone gets like the gift or the this or the that. And I'm like, why are real estate agents not showing up to showings with gifts? Why are they not showing up with a plate of cookies? Why are they not showing up with like showering people with gifts? Because naturally, the more you give up front, these people are going to be like, well, I have to buy a house from her. She's given us cookies. She's given us this. She's given us that. And at the end of the day, a lot of times we don't do that due to money, right? We're like, well, we don't have the money up front. When I host an event, right, that costs $15,000, that is an investment up front on the way it looks, the experience, the music, the AV, the gift bags, the this, the that I don't make up front. I don't make money on ticket sales. I don't make money on that stuff. I make money on the back end. And this is why I don't think people take enough like risk in their business to like, because to me, I'm like, well, that's great. You just gave me $100 basket after I just bought a $500,000 house. But what if you use that $100 and you gave it to them beforehand and showed appreciation, because it's going to speed up the sales process, and it's going to speed up like that people feel like they almost owe you, right? Like, well, I want to find a house, or I want to find this, like, I want to keep trying. I want to, like, she's super patient with me. She's showing me lots of houses. She always is showing up and taking care of me. Like I call her my midwife, but she didn't move back in time to be my midwife, but she was at my birth. We called her my doula, and she was the reason I was able to birth my baby in the position I was able to birth my baby. But every visit that I would have with her, she showed up with hot tea, or she would show up with snacks, or she would show up with like all of these things before I even actually ever even gave her money to be my doula and postpartum midwife, right? And so what I want you to really think about is take some of your income and put it in like a gift fund, so that that's what you can start to invest into people up front, right? If you know it's someone's birthday, send them a card, send them crumble cookies, send them like, and you don't have to do it for everybody, but start to do it for some of the newer people that are following you, wanting to hire you, that may end up being a higher level client, right? So I would say number 5, shower people with gifts. Number 6, you have to stand out amongst your competition. So going back to this real estate talk, just because I talked about some of this during that, is I also don't get right. Real estate agents don't do videos on every single listing that they have, especially right now, because people don't have time to go look at houses. They don't have to, and if they don't have time to look at houses, it's gone the next day and people are missing out. But if they had video or a way to do like a virtual walkthrough or something like that, they're more likely going to be able to sell the house in the conditions and terms of the state of the where the state of the world is right now. And so we have to really start to think about, like, what are we tweaking and adjusting in our industry while like things are happening, right? While things are like, where I have to tweak and adjust a lot is I get people that will like steal my content and go post about it, right? Even though they signed a contract saying they won't, or they'll start like using the structures in my business, or they'll start doing all these things. So what does that mean? I get to show up better and add a little more. I get to tweak and be different. I get to do this. I don't get mad at my competition, right? But what I do is I say, okay, how can I now stand out more? How can I now up level? I'll have people that take my course just to see how the structure is ran, right? There's going to be people out there. There's going to be competition out there for you. And so what I would first say is collaborate with your competition. But if that doesn't work, how can you stand out? What can you do different right now versus what everybody else is doing? Because if you have the same things that everybody else is doing, you're not going to make it, right? The whole goal of owning a business is having your own path, doing your own things, having your own inspiration. And so you got to stop comparing yourself, but you got to start opening up your soul and saying, okay, like, what do I need to do that's so different, right? What do I need to do that's going to stand out versus everybody else? And so, like I said, with real estate, it could be video, it could be really getting professional photos on every single listing that you list, right? It could be in your negotiation process. It could be in the amount of work you'll do for them, right? Maybe you'll help them with, like, as they're going through the mortgage process, you'll sit with them and help them walk through like all the stuff that we have no idea what it is, right? But people buy from people that make the process the most simple and the most unique. So don't get all crazy, overwhelmed customers. Like I used to, even now, you guys, like I add so many bonuses into my programs, and we'll have so many people be like, it's just overwhelming. There's so much, right? And when I hear that, I always, in my mind, I'm like, I have too many bonuses. So I'm literally getting to the point where to work with me one-on-one, it's practically just sessions, right? Because, and I'll throw in like a retreat or this or that, but I've found that like when I add so much, people do nothing, number one. and or they're frustrated because they feel like they didn't get to utilize everything because they were overwhelmed or confused, right? And we've tried the walkthrough process. We've tried doing like where we show everybody where everything's at, but naturally humans just get overwhelmed. And so you don't have to have the most of everything. You just have to stand out in what you do have. So keep that in mind. Number 7, social proof. Educate on what everyone else is doing. People buy what everyone else is doing or what everyone else has. Why did everybody get caller ID? Because somebody started talking about caller ID, right? Why did people start getting doorbell cameras? Why did people start getting iPhones or the little watch things, right? On the watch phone things. Why did everyone start doing the what was the 75 day hard like challenge, right? Like, because if everybody else is doing it, then people want to do it. So you have to let people know when you're selling to them, what is the norm? Oh yeah, most people start here. Oh yeah, majority of people have that same like objection or that same problem, right? This is what everyone does to get out of that, right? Here, like people are 20% more likely to buy from you if they know that it's the social norm, right? So really ask yourself, am I educating people and being okay to overcome objections with educating them with social proof, right? Oh yeah, I totally, I think of like Sammy Bell in the group that does parent coaching, right? If parents are spanking their kids, right, they're going to be super intimidated because they know that it's more of a gentle parenting like thing that she does. But if she makes it the norm of like, oh yeah, it's totally common that like parents just weren't trained, so they may have a different approach to parenting. A lot of people still do spank their kids. A lot of people still do like timeout. A lot of people still do this, right? But here's what everybody I'm working with is doing, right? Here's where they're starting. Here's where they can start to feel normal again. Here's like, it's totally okay. I love and accept you where you're at, right? People need acceptance. People need to know that they're normal, and they need to know that the solution you're giving them is normal and that everybody is doing it. So figure out how there is social proof in what you do. Number 8, where are we at on time? I want to make sure that I am doing good. Number 8, feed loop is what I called it because I didn't know what else to put, but make sure the conversation is smoothly going back and forth, right? So if you have been talking a long time during your sales call and they're very, very silent, it's time for you to ask a question. What are your thoughts? Does this make sense? Tell me what you're thinking now, right? I'll do this in coaching calls when I feel like I'm ranting for a really long time, and then I'll be like, it's just like silent. I'll be like, okay, tell me your thoughts on what I just taught you. Does that resonate with you? What does that bring up for you? What, right? Because we have to make sure that there's a sync of the conversation going back and forth. And so if you feel like you are talking more than you're listening, you've got to ask a question. The best thing you can do in a sales conversation is listen and ask very direct questions. And the more information, you have to think of a sales call as like, I'm gathering information. I'm gathering like enough information to know what I need to pull to bridge the gap from where they are to where they want to be. I don't have to tell them everything about my products and services. I don't have to tell them everything about everything. I just need to tell them that like, oh, this is your problem. This helps this problem. It also helps 10 million other problems, but I'm only going to focus on this one problem in this sales conversation because there's no reason to go into things that don't resonate with them, right? sell them what they need, sell them what they need. And then when they join, they're going to feel like they join or they use their product. They're going to be like, oh, and I didn't know it did this. And I didn't know it did this. Right. I've been dealing with a disc injury right now, and I went to the chiropractor yesterday, and he does like computerized chiropractics, which is super awesome. And I knew enough about it. Like I knew that they take the thing down your spine and they can see what is off. And then the machine adjusts to the vibration it needs to like adjust your back in. I knew that it was like made from like the people that made it also did like but they were like part of NASA, and they did like the rocket ship floors because I guess like it has to vibrate a certain way so it doesn't shatter. I was like, that's super cool, right? Like that's literally what like it's doing to your spine, just on a much smaller level. But like he sold me on like, here's this, great, right? Well, while I was sitting down and I was watching the other doctor use it while I was on the TENS unit, he was educating somebody else on something else. He's like, oh yeah, so we're going to do this machine right here. You're just going to bend your neck this way and this way. And we're going to go along your muscles. Then when he was done, he was like, well, in just that 30 seconds, you did 1,000 reps. And I was like, I didn't know it did that. Right. Because they're selling to people for what they need, even though that machine could do a million different things. They're literally just selling in the things that they need by having that feed loop going and asking questions, right? Like, and figuring out what their buyer seller language is and figuring out all of those things, right? And so keep that in mind. So number 9, it's about them, not you. What is in it for them? It doesn't matter what's in it for you. It doesn't matter if you think you have the greatest program in the world. It doesn't matter if you think that like that you walk on water, right? It doesn't matter. It matters in what they think. And so questions are very, very valuable. Questions should be the majority of your content, the majority of your sales conversation, the majority of like your daily conversations with people. You need to understand your audience. You need to understand their challenges, their goals, their blocks, their objections, because the more you can understand, the more you realize everybody in your target market has the same issues. When you're dealing with people that have a million different issues, it tells me you haven't narrowed it down enough. I know majority of people don't even utilize a marketing plan, like do not have a marketing calendar. I know the majority of people don't even have a funnel that they're funneling people like through, or a flow of how people are flowing in and out. I know that people probably are not focusing on collecting leads every single month and then figuring out their lead and sales process, right? Because if you just have X amount of leads every month, you walk them through the same funnel every month and you take them through the same sales, that's where sales is easy. But the lack of systems is where people are at, right? They know how to make money. They know how to hustle hard. And most people have started to exchange that like money for time, right? And so like that's where majority of my market it is. So they're going to have the same issues. They're sick of investing in their business. They've hired every coach. They've done all the things. They've done everything, right? But they're still not getting the results, right? And a lot of it is because they're still just hiring at this level, right? They're not actually getting a personal coach to work with them one-on-one. And so they're frustrated. So I have to make sure that all like my Finance Your Destiny, my group coaching, and my personal coaching has a lot of me involved with it, because they want me. They don't want another coach. They don't want a blueprint. They don't want a workbook. They don't want this. They just want me to give them direct answers. They just want like, here's this, follow the leader. Here's this, follow the leader, right? How do I know that? Because I asked a lot of questions. I started to realize what was getting people results. I didn't listen to other coaches. I didn't listen to what everybody else was doing. I didn't go and create all the beautiful, like planned out content. I actually realized that half the people don't probably actually use half of the workbooks that you give them anyways, right? And so you have to, like, that's my audience, not saying that's not your audience, but like, you have to really think about that. What is in it for them, not what is in it for you. And that's going to really help you. A really great thing you can do is a pre-interview form, right? Because you have to seek to understand and not seek to sell. So if you have a pre-interview form that you can track with everybody, what is this person's problem? What have they tried before? What's worked? What hasn't? How much have they actually invested in themselves or their business, right? Or their skincare, or whatever it is. Like, what is their biggest social block, right? Maybe it's their spouse, maybe it's their kids, maybe it's time, right? Whatever it is. And now you have all of these trackers, and throughout the year, you can say, oh, majority of people come to me and they have this block. They've tried this, they've done this, and you're going to start to see the similarities within people. So if you're not doing pre-interview forms, I would highly suggest that. I did it through a Google form. I would just ask a bunch of questions. We don't do this anymore, but that's how I got really good at learning who my market was. So that's number 9. The last one, number 10, new age strategies will win, right? Right now, reels are where it's at. If you like doing reels, I don't love it. I play with it enough to like do stuff with my family. I'm not in it to do like the cheesy business stuff. Like it's not in alignment with me yet. Maybe one day it will be, but it's just not. So still do what's in alignment with you, but also know you have to figure out what are the new age things that are in alignment with you, right? YouTube is a lost cause nowadays, right? Like you missed the boat, right? Same a little bit with TikTok. So you have to really start to look at like what is it that you're ready to jump into that's new, right? What is it that you're ready to shift, right? Or do you want to use influencer marketing? Do you want to use ads? Do you want to use, right? What strategies are going to work for you? And know that what works for you now may not work for you in 3 months. And so you have to really stay up to date of knowing what are all the things, like when people tell me, oh, I'm going to go put flyers up for my class. I'm like, flyers? More work than what you're going to like take out of it, right? When people start using words like flyers or email newsletter or this or that, I know what generation of marketing they learned in. So I now know that their block is going to be that they're putting a lot more work into the return they're actually getting for a smaller amount of cost. Because one email, right, or I would say one text message can replace like 30 emails that you send out, because it has a 90% open rate, and a good email open rate's like 30%, right? And it's not saying you don't use email. We do once a week newsletters still. There's things we still do, but we don't do it to gain conversion. We do it for them, another reason for people to see our name. And so you have to really stay on top of the new age strategies. The businesses that like kind of cap out at like that million or even like $3 million, I found are the ones that have such control on, we do newsletters, or we do an ad in the newspaper, or we do this, or we do that. And that's what built their business to here. They're terrified to stop doing it because they're afraid they're going to lose it all if they start something new, right? So I will say you have to really be okay to change really fast, adjust really fast, or you're going to get stuck in that mindset of, but it took me so long to get right here. I'm like terrified to like drop what was working. But we have to look at what could work better, right? And with less stress. So new age strategies will win all day long. So that's my 10 tips for you. The last thing I wrote at the bottom of this is really the goal is to attract people, research the people, engage the people, find the problem, and present the solution. Attract the people, research the people, engage the people, find the problem of the people, and then present the solution to the people. And that is the goal out of all of this. It's about the people. It's about them. It's not about you. It's about what they think the problem is, not what you actually think the problem is. I see this a lot in like self-help coaches or energy healers where they're like, yeah, I'm going to do a class on self-love, or, how to get an alignment, right? Or how to like balance like work and mom life, or all of these things, right? At the end of the day, that's not their biggest problem, right? That's the solution. The solution is that they don't have balance. That the solution is they don't have self-love. That's like the solution, but you need to meet them where they think their problem is, right? They think their problem is probably their husband, or they think their problem is probably that maybe they have 5 kids and they don't have the time, right? They think the problem is like, we have to really come back to human language of like basic common sense issues, but we sometimes avoid that, right? For me, like a lot of people think the issue is they don't have the money. Well, because I've preached it for so long, I'm like, it is so hard for me to go there because I'm just like, everybody has money, right? But that's still, after all of these years that I've been doing this, still the main problem. Like, it is still the main problem of my new audience. They don't feel like they have money. They don't feel like they have clarity. They don't feel like they have a direction. They feel like they're overwhelmed. They want to give up. Like, they just feel like it's like that's where they're at. And then when they actually start to make money, they realize, oh my gosh, like the problems didn't go away, right? Like now I'm just working harder. Now I'm just working more hours, but is it worth the money, right? And it's like, so the solution is just the strategies, the delegation, like, how do you find a personalized schedule that works for you? But I can't sell that because that's not what they think the problem is. And so you have to really come back to the circling it back around to the top. The sell is in the buyer's perspective. And so really the more energy and effort you put into the buyer, the more that it keeps you in check with that level, because you might be up here now, but we've got to remember that some people are still down here, and we have to speak at this level, not this level, not this level, not this level, this level. So hopefully this was valuable for you. If you have any questions, please post your questions in the Q&A. If you're in group coaching, we will also be doing another training this week. So depending on when you watch this, if you're watching the replay, then we have tons of trainings in the hub. But if you're live, we will be doing another training next week or this week, and I will talk to you guys later.